thank you for joining us in the afternoon. I hope you're having a good day so far. I haven't had a chance to try anything yet, so after this I'm going to be sprinting down those steps, well, shuffling down the stairs to go and try some lovely drinks. Welcome to this panel, which is hosted by the drinks community. I'm Millie Milliken. I am the community manager for the drinks community, which is a free-to-use platform for members of the drinks trade run by the Drinks Trust charity. And I'm a freelance journalist as well. And I've been joined by three fantastic panelists for today's panel. We've got Jenny Elliott, who is the Head of Brand Development at Drinks Accelerator 2EM. We have Adam Lajca, who has one of the best job titles I've ever heard, Head Cigar Sommelier at the Corinthia. And we have Vidja Narasimhan, otherwise known as Not Just Vegetarian, who is a wine consultant, but she came from a slightly different profession to get to where she is today. Now, obviously, the title of today's panel is called Jobs You Don't Know About, which is slightly tongue-in-cheek because some of these jobs you will know about. But what I often find, especially as a journalist, is that we always hear rightly so, about bartenders, sommeliers, bar owners, bar operators, restaurant owners, GMs, but sometimes there are so many other roles within this amazing industry that people do that we don't get to hear about as often. So I really wanted to bring these three fantastic panelists on today to have a chat about their careers, how they got to where they are today, and yeah, the sort of transferable skills that can be brought from the worlds of hospitality as well. So I think the best place to start would be to find out how you all got to doing your myriad of roles today. And we'll start with you, please. Jenny?
Yep, no problem. So I guess my background actually wasn't in the drinks industry. I worked in hospitality at a young age when I was still at school and so on, and then I actually went into beauty therapy. So I've got a little bit of a hospitality background from a long way ago, but yeah, I went into the beauty industry, became a beauty therapist, and worked in sales in beauty for a good chunk of my life. But I guess what I learned there was all about experiential sales. So, I'm sure you've all been to House of Fraser, Debenhams, wherever, you've seen the Clarins or the Chanel ladies. I worked for both of those businesses. And it's all about bottoms on seats and product on hand. So if you don't have bottom on seat and product on hand, then you haven't made a sale. So I guess when I came to the drinks industry and worked in on-trade sales, selling beer in Molson Coors initially, I was really surprised that we weren't tasting beer and we weren't experiencing the product. So I guess that was what I brought to the team that I was hired into. So I guess experiential sales is something that I brought to that team. And then worked my way through various sales and marketing roles in Molson Coors and then Brewdog. And then now at 2AM, as you said, I'm a head of brand development. So basically what I do is I help small brands start and grow, so launch and grow. So, mostly alcohol brands, but sometimes we do soft drinks and so on as well. But I guess the common theme all the way through is that piece of experiential sales. So, I loved it in the beauty industry and I love it in the drinks industry as well. I honestly think it's something that the spirit brands and the wine brands have got right for a long time, and the beer industry's taken a little bit of time to catch up, but I think they have now. So I think the biggest things that have helped me in my career have been working for good businesses and having a good boss. So I would say that's my two pieces of big advice. Try and find what you're good at and what you're passionate about, and then try and find a good business to work with. And a good boss is sometimes a little bit trickier to find, but if you can find a good boss along the way, that would be the final piece of the jigsaw.
Fantastic, thank you. And Adam, what about you? How did you get to what you're doing now?
So, main trigger was a trip, which happened probably around 15 years ago in Cuba. That time I smoked the first Cuban cigar and I fall in love. And then, okay, what now? And probably 2 years later I seriously thought about it and how I can implement in my life as a little bit way of life and do it on a day-to-day basis. So I started meeting people, going to Habanos festival in Havana, which is happening end of February. and that helped me to sort of launch myself into the cigar world, meet people, and learn more about the cigars. A few years later, the opportunity at the Corinthia started. So my journey been already like 5 years there, but also I've been collecting cigars for over a decade. And I try to travel to different places to meet and talk with the people who owning the shop, who are in the industry, and get as much as I can as well in the same time. So that was like, good 15 years of my, journey, let's say.
Fantastic, thank you. And Vidya, what about you? You've got a very different background as well.
Yeah, so I don't come from the wine industry or hospitality. I've always been a guest in hospitality. But my love for wine really comes from my love for food and travel. And any time I travel, I try to eat and drink local. My background has been in consulting and banking, and that allowed me to be able to travel internationally and also try different experiences. So in a way, that's how I kind of got exposed to wine. But kind of switching careers was mainly because I found that I was really excited by food and wine, and I don't consume food without wine, and I don't consume wine without food. So it was all about getting that together. And in all my travels, I felt that I'm always choosing a wine, but I didn't know, there was no method to the madness in my head. I somehow would remember some regions, some things, but so I started out by educating myself, and then by sharing my love of food and wine and pairing and so on. So as and when that got a little more known among my friends and family, they said, what should we do? Should we order this wine? And, at restaurants I end up choosing. So then with that education, and also with my career in banking and consulting, while I was having great fun, I actually wanted to switch careers completely. And then I did. And in a way, I've kind of leveraged my past experiences and my transferable skills, and we'll come to that. I know you have a question on that. So basically, it was just about using all that and really networking, connecting with people authentically, one-to-one, to really understand, to get to know them and seek advice before transitioning. Because one of the things I was told was, it's never going to pay as much as banking did. So, I came into this eyes wide open. So I really appreciate anybody who's given me advice in the past. So in a way, I got here partly because of my travel, my curiosity, but also because of education, networking, and sharing my love of food and wine.
Fantastic. And we just mentioned transferable skills. Jenny, obviously, you came from a different sort of industry, moving into the drinks world. In terms of those sorts of skills that you need to do a role like yours, what are those transferable skills that you could bring over from there? I know we mentioned the experiential sales side of it, but if someone was, for example, wanting to move from a role in hospitality into a more sort of sales-driven role, what are those sorts of skills that you think are essential to work for a drinks accelerator?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess one of the things we do at 2am, the agency I work for now, is recruitment. So often we speak to people who they're on behind the bar and they want to come out from behind the bar and be salespeople or brand ambassadors or whatever. And honestly, I'm really passionate about the fact that if you work in hospitality, you understand what the salesperson needs, because you are the person that they will speak to. So you go to the bar to sell your wares, like Gemma does, and she's got to talk to, she's got to find the decision maker, she's got to speak to the general manager, and as I always say, the bar staff hold just as much information and just as much important information if you want to sell your brand as the owner does, because they serve the clients all the time, they serve the customers, they know the answers. So actually, if you work behind the bar in hospitality, you will have some amazing transferable skills, because you understand the clientele, you understand the way the bar works and so on. I mean, there's two sides to any sale. There's sell in and sell out. So sell in is when Gemma's selling into the bar, and then sell out is when the bartenders are selling out to the consumer. So actually, you're managing half of that sale already, yeah? So I would say, you're back to kind of my previous point about knowing, I feel like I knew what I was good at when I worked in beauty, and I just took that and transferred it over to beer at the time, about that experiential selling piece. So I think the bit that I'm really passionate about is helping people as they come through and say, I'd love to leave hospitality and come to work in sales. decide what you're really, really good at. What are your strengths? Where are your strength areas? And then how are you going to put that into play in this new sales or marketing role that you want to do? But I mean, there's so much opportunity for people who've been working behind a bar or in hospitality in any area to either develop your own brand or, you know, or to go and work for a brand. Because like I say, you know what we want already.
Exactly. And Adam, I'm dying to know what goes into becoming a cigar sommelier. What sort of training is there out there? Is it something that you find your bar staff are really interested in and you end up talking to them and educating them on the venue side of things as well? Tell me how the world of sort of cigar sommelier works.
I think it's fairly easy to do nowadays, come to the cigar world. Obviously, if you want to work in the top places, well-known places, you want to have a great position, you have to work for it. But then, just simple thing to start, to work in one of the cigar shops or cigar lounges if you have a hospitality background. Perfect, you know, there's more and more places opening. But there is something which is called Master of Havana Cigars, which is done by Hunters and Franco, who's sole importer of Cuban cigars to UK. So they doing it's self-study course, and they used to do before 3 or 4 sessions a year. If they allowed you, then it's written exam, as well as you have to present 10 different cigars. So pass mark is quite high, it's 75%. So you have questions about the sizes, history, agriculture, and a few other different things. So you have to know a little bit, well, you have to know pretty much everything. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to just skip the size of the cigars. So if you're lucky to pass that, then let's say in an elite group of, I think at the moment is around 35 of us who pass that exam. And then you have more doors, you know, to be open ahead of you. So if you have like prestigious cigar lounges around London, probably this certificate will help you to get the job there as well. And it's something, it's sense of achievement as well in a way, because you have to work really, really hard for it, to study, you know, sacrifice a lot of time, and then even after that, there's few things to improve as well at the same time.
Fantastic. I bet the bartenders where you work as well, they're always after a few little tidbits of information and the history of it, like you probably would be on the other side for drinks as well. So yeah, if you're a bartender and you get to work in a cigar lounge, it's pretty cool to have that added on as an extra work thing, yeah.
Of course, I mean, there's few places as well, we have quite a few bars, and then you have a cigar lounge, and it's a really nice thing that when sometimes people are coming, fellow members of the team, like, you know, can you explain to me about this or that, or I want to know more about the cigars, what can I do, which is, you know, amazing feeling as well, I have to say. Yeah.
I bet, yeah. Vidja, what does being a wine consultant entail? What does I know everyone says, oh, there isn't a day-to-day, but, you know, what sort of things do you work on with restaurants in terms of their wine offering?
Thank you. As a wine consultant, I do pretty much a lot of what wine communicators do, which is talk about wine, how it's made on Instagram and social media and so on. But also I do a range of things. That's why consultant is like a generic all-in term. So I help restaurants curate wine lists, specifically Indian restaurants, because that's my heritage and that's the food I know really well. So I started off doing that, and then I kind of host tasting, especially in the pandemic, virtually for friends and family, and then I do events, private tastings for private groups. I do that, but beyond all that, the niche that I'm in, given that I have a business degree, is that I help private equity firms find candidates for investment in food and wine. So this kind of leverages my business background, and you know, one does need some sort of business degree or the experience of having launched and run a business to be able to identify what makes for a successful business, and therefore advise private equity firms. And also at some level, a lot of networking, a lot of sharing on social media, the excitement and the joy of food and wine pairing and so on. So it's like a number of things that come together. But of course, it does not happen without wine education and finding like-minded people who are willing to support and kind of give somebody a chance, especially for people outside the industry like me.
Of course, yes. And I think it's interesting that you've come from outside the industry, as have you, Jenny. And I think in the industry, we often talk about, like I said at the beginning, all these roles that you most often associate with the hospitality or the drinks industry. In terms of the roles that you guys hold, how do you think they are portrayed to people who might be wanting to move career, or do you think it's easy for people to see these roles and have access to them? Do you think there's anything that is a barrier to people coming into your types of roles? It's a question to all of you, so I don't know, Jenny, if we start with you, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that most people would be familiar with some sort of sales or marketing agency that would help brands grow, and essentially that's what we do. We're a sales agency that help brands grow. But probably, if you said to even a lot of the people downstairs, some of whom are our clients, what does Jenny do in a day-to-day, they probably wouldn't have much of a clue. So honestly, I think it's, the onus is on us as leaders within our businesses, our respective businesses, to talk about what we do, to come on panels like this and to discuss it, more openly. I think there's so many opportunities for people out there, whether you work in hospitality or you're in some sort of drink show or you're not in a drink show just now, to come in. I mean, right now, in the industry, we're desperate for people to join the hospitality industry, aren't we? We're desperate for people to join. There's shortage of team members out there. So I think it's really the opportunity is for all of us to talk passionately about what we do and encourage people into the industry with things like this. So thank you for having us.
Adam, in terms of people that you see coming in to do similar roles to what you do or who are just starting out, do you think, is there a lot of appetite for it? Is it people who've come to the role specifically to do that, or have they come to the role through different avenues as well?
I think a lot of people coming not specifically looking for this sort of a role. So, for example, they've been working around that environment and they like, okay, I want to actually try it and see how it is, because it's a little bit different. You have, for example, in a hotel you have a bar, you have a restaurant, and then you have a cigar lounge. So people going there to relax, to take the time, to have a conversation with you. So it's a little bit different atmosphere. And then obviously you have to give and spend time with the client. So I don't think so I can compare to anything else if we're talking about the hospitality world. So I definitely encouraging people, if they want to switch a little bit but they still want to stay in hospitality, to come to the cigar world. And well, one of the things is definitely you have to smoke the cigars. You have to keep yourself on your toes, and then it takes a little bit of your free time as well. Not only because of the studying, but different things as well at the same time.
Yeah, of course. And Vidya, in terms of being a wine consultant, is that something that you, before you kind of developed your love of wine and food, is that something that you'd ever thought that you'd do in the future, or that you even knew was a possibility?
Not really. I grew up in India. There's not much wine there. And then I've subsequently lived in America and here. So growing up, there was no access to wine. There was this perception in India that wine is posh. It's not readily available. The duty was very high. So nobody even thought, especially not a woman, could be in this industry. And definitely even out here in the West, there's more predominance of white male. There are women in wine, of course there are plenty, but I think we need more. In terms of access that you were talking about, I think there's access inability, or a lot of these jobs are inaccessible. One, because people who are growing up, who are looking for new careers or who are thinking of what do I do in life, they don't identify people they identify with in similar jobs or roles, so they think it's not a possibility. But also people like me who come in laterally, I also don't see people like me. Not as many women of color or women of different ethnicity and origin and so on. So it's quite, at some level, there are barriers to access. for jobs like this. Wine consultant, I've kind of carved this myself, right? There was no such job. Had I quit my banking job thinking this is what I want to do, I would never be where I am today. But that's only because I've kind of sought out opportunities and figured out what can make it work. But I was also not looking for a job. I wanted to be independent, and I wanted my independence. I valued my time and my independence, and I realized what I had to offer was very different from other people in the industry. And therefore, I would say I reached out to people to figure out, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I would like to do? And I kind of came to the conclusion only after educating myself. I did the WSET courses. I've continued to educate myself. There are plenty of free resources as well. Yes, WSET helps, but also there are lots of free resources online. So I think the start is education and awareness, and to see more people of various ethnicities, backgrounds, gender, orientation in roles in hospitality and drinks and so on, and cigars and so on, only then can we encourage other people to. So as a community, we can do more for people either looking for new careers or for transitioners like me.
Yeah, definitely. And Jenny, you do obviously a lot of work working with new brands to help build their brands, build their businesses. What's the best part of your job when you get to see a brand that you sort of took from the beginning stages to sort of the heights that they're at a few years later? What's the best part of that part of the job?
Honestly, I think it's the relationships you build along the way, because no brand is built by one person. It's the team of people who create that brand. Or I love working with people as well, and teams, helping brands develop teams. Whether it's sales teams, marketing teams, whatever it is, because we're all based in the hospitality industry, aren't we? So we're all based in, the clues in the word, hospitable, and, we're all people, aren't we? We love people. But yeah, for me it's, and actually it would be really easy for me to sit here and say, oh, it's all those wonderful times we have when everything's going well and we're all high-fiving each other and doing well. But as we know, Ian, team member over there, we have the shit times as well, don't we? Sorry, I just swore. But actually, that's the best bit for me. It's about going through, the tough times as we do. We recognise with that as a team internally, because we're, as a startup, as an agency, we are still quite a small agency. And you can imagine, only having been going for the last 3 years, we've been through some tough times as well. So we really resonate with that, and I do personally. That I love working with a small brand or a small team that starts up, and you really get to, yes, you get the high five moments and the wonderful things that happen, but you really get to hold their hand and put the arm around the shoulder when things aren't going well, and actually you come out the other end with a really strong, solid relationship, and you can be proud because you really have been part of it through the good and the bad.
Yeah, especially after the last
few years, yeah, we've been a lot of challenge.
Yeah. And Adam, in terms of your kind of looking forward in terms of your career and the cigar industry as well, especially in London and the UK, what do you kind of hope for the future of sort of your part of the drinks industry, essentially, obviously the cigar industry, but it is part of the bar world as well. What are you hoping in the future in terms of the culture of smoking cigars and enjoying them in a hospitality setting?
Well, I'm happy actually to see that a lot of new cigar lounges are opening in London, especially in London. London is going to be always this city that is mecca for premium Cuban cigars, and people will come from all over the world to experience it. But what I'm really hoping for, that some of the drink brands going to be more cooperative with the cigar industry, and they actually going to allow to the end customer to experience, cigar in the drinks world, because we have a lot of perfect pairings with some of the really, really nice brands, and we little bit start to miss that. I mean, some of the brands are more cooperative than the other ones, and I'm hoping that that will really, really change. But well, time will show. Yeah.
I've just received a sample of the new Tamdu, which is a cigar blend.
Yes.
Haven't tried it yet, but yeah, I was very excited when that arrived on my doorstep. Yeah, can't wait to try it.
Exactly. I mean, for example, one of the brands, Dalmore, they're doing perfect job, and then they're very supportive in those terms. So so far, I think we're on the right direction. So we open eyes of different like CEOs in the hotel world, showing them that, okay, you can make a little bit of revenue from the cigars, but then the guests who are actually going to stay in a hotel is going to spend a lot of money on the room rates, a lot of money in the food and beverage. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that.
There's plenty of opportunities out there.
Exactly.
And Vidya, you know, you've mentioned earlier you come from an Indian heritage, and I know you do a lot of work. You're in the communities such as Colour of Wine and Be Inclusive Hospitality. In terms of, you've mentioned the sort of diversity in the wine world. How do you think brands and the industry can help bring more people in so that people do have those people they can look at and they reflect themselves and they feel like it's a more welcoming space to be in?
Thank you for asking this question. It's really dear to my heart. I think, you asked about industry, and I think industry not just as companies and brands, but also as people, as individuals. So that's what brings the community together. So I'll answer the first question, the first part first, the brand thing. I think a lot of people are able to see themselves as consumers of a certain brand, but do they see themselves as part of the brand, meaning contributing to it and wanting to work there, wanting to contribute to the growth of that brand? You know, they will consume it, but there's a relationship with the consumer, as a consumer with the brand, but it's quite different from trying to find work there. And some people might, but it tends to be inaccessible. I'm generalizing here. I'm not saying not everybody is doing that, but there are. So I think as brands and as organizations, people, you know, there are a few things that brands and organizations can do. One is to attract talent from a diverse set of backgrounds. Even putting jobs on job boards that are specific to an underrepresented community. Like people at Be Inclusive Hospitality or Be Wine professionals will take that job seriously if it's actually posted there, as opposed to just being posted on a regular job site because they feel like, oh, I know what will happen. They wouldn't want someone like me, so they don't even apply. And then two, in terms of retaining talent and showcasing talent, you know, a lot of brands are now showing on social media, these are the people behind our brand. Meet the team. We need to see more people represented in the behind the team and showcase their talent and showcase how they have grown with having grown the brand and so on. I think that's when consumers and individuals can see themselves as being part of the brand and the community, not just on a usage consumption basis. And then, of course, you know, create a pipeline of talent, work with educational institutions and so on to provide scholarship, to provide mentoring opportunities for people who want to switch, make themselves available, like give themselves time as individuals and as organizations. So I think all that can be done, and particularly brands and organizations could do a review or an audit of how well represented is that brand across different communities in terms of the reach, and therefore put in place some process or plans with a timeline and commit to it, make it public, and then say, we want you to be a part of it, we want you to come with us. And only then will it become truly diverse and inclusive. And as individuals, we can all offer time to people who are switching careers, who are coming from different backgrounds, and say, listen, I'm available if you want advice. You know, people you meet among your friend circle, your university friends, your neighbors, and so on. It's definitely possible that we all contribute to a better and a diverse, not just workforce, but a community.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you so much for that answer. That was great. Right, we have a couple of minutes. If there's anyone on the floor who would like to ask any of our panelists any questions? Anyone want to find out how to be a cigar sommelier? I know I do. All good? Perfect. Well, thank you so much to my wonderful panelists. I think this is, in terms of job roles and parts of the industry, definitely the most varied I've ever done. It was a pleasure to learn about everything you guys do. And thank you everyone for coming and listening as well. Please feel free to join the Drinks community. It is, as I mentioned, a free platform run by the Drinks Trust for industry professionals in the drinks industry to come and network, meet new people, and network and have access to some free resources as well, and we've got a content program as well. So come and say hi. I'll be the person that DMs you when you get there. And yeah, have a lovely afternoon and enjoy the drinks. I know I'm going to shuffle off and do that now.